Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. And rolled on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, hold on. Let's get the microphone all correct here. Hey, so long weekend. Hope you had a good weekend. Market out. So we gotta hold on before I get into the charts here. Something is up. Look at that. That not only did they hit the treasuries really hard there on the open, but there was a lot of volume on it as well. I don't see any like news or anything. There are like some stuff going on in ECB in the world and so forth. I'm not sure. That could just be the open, but it was a very forceful move. Let's see here. We do have well, we got Canadian numbers at the bottom of the hour, but we don't have anything too significant until Chicago PMI at 9:45. Let's come and check out the charts here. So the thing that I think we got going on here right now in the S&P 500 is, we had this kind of bottom event over here and then really great rally last week after the options expiration. If this is just a bear market rally, here's the point to short it. You got a little bit of downside momentum now. This is where the bears have come out hitting hard. Coming over to the treasuries are starting to push hard again. And I think one of the big drivers here this morning is that oil is just push up 120 now. 120 doesn't seem so crazy. Like, I remember when it was like, oh, it'll be over 100. And I was like, now it's 120. It seems like, well, of course it is. Like, oil is just still going. And so that seems to be creating some inflation fear over here in the treasuries, right? Natural gas is well, it's doing okay this morning. There's always a strong move going on in natural gas, but they often retrace those. So gold and silver, I don't know, those kind of look poised to go higher, but we got to see. Like, will they ever make it up to 1900? It feels like it's never going to happen, but we'll see. Silver, copper is doing well. So China is supposedly going to be reopening and so forth. So that should be the cause of some economic optimism out there. And we got to come over to the currencies. We got Bitcoin above 30,000 right now. So they're kind of at a point where they're going to want to try and hold it. When I say they, like Tether. So we'll see, but there could be more shoes to drop in Bitcoin as well. So I think if you're a betting man or you really want to be involved in the cryptocurrency sphere, now is the time to buy it. But I personally am going to refrain. I don't want to be involved in that space anymore. And then we got the dollar coming up to 102. So we started to see some decline in the dollar last week, right? But it's just not. It's like you can't kick him down, man. It's just holding, right? Okay, so what do we got here? It was some stuff on Twitter I wanted to check. Goldman Sachs sees 3 budding. There is no alternative trade in commodities. But what are the 3? Oil? I'm just reading this to myself here. Oh, maybe I said 3, but it really was just there is no alternative, and I think that they're saying it's just commodities in general. Well, that's good for us, I guess. Hmm. Bitfinex on Twitter. Bitfinex has a record amount of long positions. Institutionalized investors are allegedly long Bitcoin on an exchange which continuously lied about their assets and has executives under criminal investigation for bank fraud. Or maybe these positions are fake. Look at that. 10K into 119.08. What is going on here? Look, and they're pushing even further. I don't know about that one, man. I don't think that I want to touch it. I mean, it's already well past. Plus, I don't have my micros set up. We need to fix that. Let's fix that. Look at the way they are falling. I don't know. It's a very aggressive volume the whole way. It's a very aggressive volume the whole way in the treasury. It's trading like there's news, and I just don't see the news. They're trading like something big has changed. I suppose that is possible. To see that sort of a thing, just it being after the holiday and everything. But man, well, I guess we're still only to 2.9 though. I don't know. And look, there's a lot trading there at 07 too. Like the market makers aren't jumping out of the way per se. They're taking it there. I don't know if I want to take that as a reversal, but that node right there, this node right here kind of looks like something that could cause at least a short-term reversal. Too strong for a reversal? Well, I think the thing you gotta consider here is how strong are the market orders going to be, right? Because that market order could be done here. All I'm saying is that the node that they created at 08 is going to be a little problematic now at the moment. Like, it's probably going to stop them, and they're going to rotate around that a little bit. Yeah, that's a good theory too, Mr. Bond. And it's something I didn't really mention was that some of the EZ, I don't know what that stands for, but EZ CPI was not very good and still inflationary and kind of spooked the European markets. So they're kind of looking at this situation now where it seems like the US might be past peak inflation and Europe isn't, which it was kind of funny if that's the way that it ends up going, right? And so the treasuries may be seeing some selling because of that. Oh, is it just Eurozone? Maybe that's what it stands for. I'd never seen that news highlighted before in my morning reading, and they didn't say what it stood for, so that sounds about right. Either way, um, so I would think that if that was the case, that the treasuries would have moved back when that thing was released, but maybe they were just waiting for the pit session to start. I don't know. Now, here's Jordan Peterson. This should be really bring the Justin Trudeau government down, but it won't. Huh. So, I haven't been too interested in talking about the shooting issue, because it seems like in the United States that probably nothing's going to come from that. But now Trudeau's government is pushing like a full outright ban, pretty much. And well, not outright ban, like basically what Australia is doing, which is about as far as you can go. And I'm curious now to see what the political implications of this is going to be, because I think what might happen here is you're going to see some pretty aggressive protesting in Canada again, similar to what you did with the truck protests. And Americans will probably get a lot more involved because Americans are very, very concerned that they're going to try and ban guns over here. And so this might have more significant political implications than we initially realize. Might mean that US inflation has peaked, but it will be slow to return. Or no? The question is still kind of what the difficulty with the whole inflation thing is that there's still a bit of debate about where the inflation comes from, if you can put it that way, right? The left still thinks that it's just supply chain issues, and ergo it doesn't matter what the Federal Reserve does, right? So that spot at 08 has generated a little short-term pullback. Although you're not getting more than like what, 2 ticks out of it? But it did create that hole. Just always that's got to be the most useful thing that I always kind of knew it, but when I started thinking about it like this, that's when it really started to click. Okay, lots of volume too quickly creates a hole and makes it harder to move out of that location. Anyways, another thing that's going on today is that Joe Biden is calling Powell to his office, or whatever, however you want to put it. Oh, the 5 years got a huge order that it looks like they're gunning for. Scott Adams tweets, Joe Biden appears to be applying his Afghanistan strategy of losing expensively to Ukraine, right? Oh man. We really have dumped a lot of money into Ukraine, and kind of looks like that the breakaway portions will break away, and I don't know what happens after that. Okay, let's see here. So we are seeing. So I should note that the 6J has been pretty consistently down here this morning. Well, falling well before the Treasury started joining. Surprisingly enough, well, I shouldn't say surprisingly enough, but gold is not really moving with it. Some, well, gold, the dollar is looking pretty strong. And so I'm seeing some of these commodities fall a little bit. And it's kind of funny because the most active thing out there right now is Bitcoin, which is up 10% today. Um, but if rates are going up, that's not good for Bitcoin. That could kind of rain on their parade at some point. The Hill reports Florida fifth grader threatened mass shooting. Yeah, I'm bet that happens a lot though. Hmm. The spread in the 5 years so retarded. One of these two sides we can bring it in, but I don't know which side it is. It should be. That's kind of close too because oh man, it's kind of weird because within the spread, the 5 and 10 invert. All right, because the high end of this is 2.92, and the 10-year is offer is 2.9 right now. But that's because the spread is literally like 6 basis points. 6 to 2, yeah. It's literally a 6 basis point spread. This is so dumb. Interestingly, the treasuries get down to the bottom end of that, but they're not buying it at 2.9. In fact, I see a little bit of dip buying there at 0.7. I don't know if that's too wise. Mohammed El the paragraph on the Federal Reserve from Biden's op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. First, the Federal Reserve has a primary responsibility to control inflation. My predecessor demeaned the Fed, and past presidents has sought to influence its decisions inappropriately during periods of elevated inflation. I won't do this. I appointed highly qualified people from both parties to lead that institution. I agree with their assessment that fighting inflation is our top economic challenge right now. So what are they going to talk about when they talk today then, huh? Just rewinding here. If there's anything in Twitter I missed. An allergen has touched my eyelid. I can feel it. I mean, they look so close to busting there. That was wrong. There we go. Odd there not being an offer there at 2.902. Kind of looks like there could be some reloading here at 07 again, yeah. Okay. Not they reloaded a little bit, but then eventually it ticked. 5 years really dragging them down. So are we getting some flattening here? Looks like it. Oh my gosh, is that the heater on there? Hold on. Okay, well, they finally cleared 2.9. That's kind of a weird one for the micros there. For this spread to completely close and them not clear the price. But it kind of looks like there's maybe still some a little bit too much liquidity there to fill and a little bit of gravity to 08. Yeah, the 30 year is kind of pushing the other way. Though the micros still did not move very much off of that. And they come back down to the low quite easily too. Well, actually they're trading across all of these prices from 08 to 07 quite easily, right? Do you think you're going to go short the 10-year at 3 and hold it for 6 to 12 months? You know, it does seem like 3% is a key spot. Like, I don't know. Problem though is what's with this raising rates this morning, right? I think there's definitely like some support in the treasuries at 3%. Like there are people that want to buy it at 3%, right? It's just like if that changes, it's going to go south really quickly, right? Which I suppose makes it a good location to try and make a bet, but I'm not too confident that on a 6-month time frame I can really call that one. Hmm. Hmm. That's really curious. Like there was some solid buying there, and then it just easily ticked back down. Like what happens if this week the S&P 500 moves higher, right? If this week the S&P 500 moves higher, less people are going to believe in the bear market rally theory, and there's going to be more people starting to call this as just a pullback. And in that kind of a situation, there might still be some, and you're not going to get the deflationary pressures. And so I would think that interest rates would still remain in the upper range. I don't know if they would go meaningfully above 3%, but I don't know if you would get much out of it, right? So I don't think that it's a for sure trade. I'm not too sure on the probability for that one. That's really interesting how easily it falls at 07.5. Like, really, you're bearish until 3,600. Yeah, where all of the analysts got their had their targets rather. Okay, well, the treasury is definitely like cooled off a bit here. So I'm not too confident I can say which way what it's going to do now. Note the 30-year does seem to be like pushing, but in that instance, the 5-year whipped back around. So in the end, they actually reversed the flattening. But they're still kind of in the hole. So well, that tick up at 08 half is a good win for the buyers. Hmm. So I'm not going to let that one push too much because when I took that trade, I thought that it was like about to fall through. Like I was surprised that they weren't clearing 2.9. So I think that for me to take the quick loss on that is probably appropriate. May come back here. I don't know. Yeah. So you know what's last week you made lots of money countering the first move. I don't know if that's accurate. I don't remember actually. Now that I think of it, I don't remember actually. Something that we do have to factor in here though is that it's the last day of the month and that's going to create some buying, right? I got this article pulled up from Business Insider, which is like Gen Z is now in the workforce and here's what they're doing and yada yada yada. And I'm like, oh, you mean they're doing all of the same things that they said millennials were doing? What they prioritize a good working environment and demand flexibility and well-being benefits. Maybe that's just what young workers do, guys, because like it seems like that's always the trend. It seems like that's always the trend. I think that these stories are just clickbait. I used to think that they told me something insightful about where the economy. Now I'm pretty sure that it's just clickbait. Marketeer says, "Don't forget no help from short gamma." Oh, I can't see that one. Yeah, see, jumping out of that was the right thing. It did reverse there. I didn't think that it was going to reverse. I thought that it was going to be like a short term pullback and then push back down. I guess that's still possible. I do remember last week catching a few really good trades, though. Do remember catching a big winner, and I guess that big winner was kind of counter trend, huh? Trying to go through all the forces in my mind here. End of month buying, inflation concerns selling, economic concerns buying. I see a lot of reasons for it to be moving both ways this morning. I'm a little surprised by the forcefulness with which we sold. Um, that would be a little odd to have a move like that and not have additional legs. But the buyers are making good progress at certain points. This looks like a better spot to try and go for the long. At least you got a little bit more momentum with you. Hmm. Don't know about that one. I think one of the things though that I've got going on here is that the spread is not favorable to the trade that I want to make. Oil is another big component here that we got to keep a closer eye on, huh? Wait until the index is open. Well, if this goes the way that I think it will probably happen in the next 20 minutes, though. I don't know though that the order flow doesn't really seem to be. So something I'm noticing here is that the 6J is still at its lows. The treasuries have come back a bit. There does appear to be a little bit of a bid support, and the micros keep falling to 2.885. So like that seems like a little bit further back than it should get. I don't know. It's still within the range. They're still at the VWAP. So it's like this would be a good spot to try and go long yields again here if you thought that they were going to make a push to 3. And there is some support for that in the order flow, but then the S&P 500 does not look very good, and that kind of looks like there's bears are going to make their push here this morning, right? So kind of some conflicting signs, right? And another thing is that again, like the treasury just moved three ticks there, right? And it didn't really change the 10-year, right? So the basis difference between the 7 and the 10 years changed here a bit. It's an uptick there. 2 upticks are very easy. 09 half easy. So we did get Case-Shiller house price stuff information. 19% year over year, month over month, 1.5% versus an expected 2%. So that might be a reason to buy treasuries a little bit, yeah. Buying treasuries would be in line with that house price index being less than expected. Good morning, Tobias. Good morning, D. Oh, I didn't notice Alcor saying in here Bull's going to try and maintain momentum today / tomorrow. I think today is going to be a battle in the indexes for sure. Hmm. So now you've got a risk of this whole gap being closed because, you know, they'd come down so quickly. Probably still some gravity at 08, but okay, interesting. So 11 is kind of doing some back and forth, and ZB is pausing at 139 even. Nope. Okay, that's good. I'm much happier with that fill. For a second there, I was like, if I get filled, I don't think I'm going to like it. But then they did fill me and somebody hit back. So, you know, if I can get a few positive ticks on my entry, I'd very much prefer that. You say smart money is buying up bonds and dumb money is buying the S. I don't know. I don't know, man. I mean, somebody sold the bonds this morning, right? What was that flow? This is a pretty that's like really messing me up here is there was a really major flow that sold the treasuries right off of the open. And I'm really not 100% sure what it was. And whether, cuz maybe it was just like a natural hedge that they had to place now that, after the weekend, right? Like maybe it had absolutely no fundamental information behind it at all. And if that's the case, then that probably would be a really good place to buy the treasuries from, right? Right? So Japan, big sell last night at Japan open too. Yeah, and Japan has been like down. So it, I kind of see setup for both ways, but it is starting to look like this is gonna reverse. So or rather the order flow is becoming more supportive of the theory that this is going to reverse. Now, on the flip side, S&P 500 is reversing a little bit, and from ATR stop is now on the upside. So that doesn't all it takes is a sneeze over there to make it cross that line where I say now they're in an uptrend, but they are in an uptrend. Yes, now. Hmm. Another thing that we have to consider here in the treasury is that it may just be a lot choppier than we want it to be, right? Like maybe they do trend up, but maybe it's really choppy. The situation is such that they could probably push back through all of this pretty easily, but I don't know. Okay. Joseph Way sounds familiar. Nope, I don't know who that is. Oh, he was oh, is that Fed guy? 12? I know that name. And I don't follow them. Well, I'll follow them. In fact, I'll add him to our little list so that we can keep track of him more closely. Okay, so that wasn't very good. So I think it can file that one under the, it looks like it's going to be a little bit more choppy than we would like. You know what would be funny for the ES right here is if 4130 was about as high as they went and they started heading back down going into the open again. They go just far enough for there to be like a confirmed trend change and then they flip around. They do that so much in the treasury, but here would be like the most classic example of it, right? Hmm. The 5-year still is still pushing pretty aggressively, but the 30-year is like, okay, so like there's 500 on offer there in the 30-year, and nobody wants to go for it. See, I think it's going to take a bit for them to push through that order. The 5-year might drag them through it, though. Let's clear our DOMs here. So 2.92 is the local high. Oh, they did. It looks like they did take it in the 30-year. Okay. Okay, there's the 5-year breaking out. I like that. Look at that. Okay, so now the uptrend in the treasuries looks much more established. You still got a long way to go before the 30-year, for instance, is retraced that move. That's still a whole 20 ticks up in the 30-year. But I'd say that was a pretty solid move, and it was right around when I thought that you would see the sell. So like if we were going to get another leg to that meta order sell in the 10-year, it would come, it usually comes around 45 minutes after the initial move, right? Although it's always randomized so that you can't really see the pattern. So to see as strong of a buy come through as we've seen, I think is a really good signal for the longs in the treasuries, short yield. Now, meanwhile, the S&P 500 is still extending up. So we might see all manner of fun stuff on the open in the S&P 500. I think that there's still a lot riding on this open in the S&P 500 for people. Now that's interesting. 30, 10, and 30 up a tick, 5-year not. I do see that spreads are all kind of on the higher end here. So might the spreads start to flatten again and the 30-year accelerate? That would be really good for our trade if that happened. But that also might mean that I'm just seeing what I want to see. ECB's Visco says rate hikes must be gradual. I think that was earlier news. I think that's somebody retweeting earlier news. Wow, Goldman Sachs has about $1 billion behind the 1 Million Black Women Initiative. Good job for them. They're so good. Those programs that they do of that nature are so effective. Yeah, in fact, there now the 30 is up 2 ticks and the 5 is actually down 1. So we are, in fact, seeing a little bit of flattening come through here. I should note, by the way, that we didn't see like a really big hole sort of trade get created up here. In the treasuries. So although you might see it there at 30.5 in the 5-year, right? No. Now it's equalizing out a little bit. And the 5-year retaking the lead as it pushes into perhaps a new high. Well, it would be a regular session high, not an overnight high. And the next like real swing high we have there is 007 in the 5-year. So still quite a ways up there before, this whole down move that we had earlier. USD JPY extends higher as bond yields push higher in the early New York tradings at Forex Live. Well, they're a little bit behind the curve there because that was like what we were at 45 minutes ago. Not sure that's the situation now. That 5-year is not holding back at all, is it? Okay, so that's weird. Fears of a U.S. recession in 2022 are overblown. Goldman Sachs, and that's not what's weird. What's weird is that they have an Olympic weightlifting picture for the picture. I don't know. I don't recognize. I think I recognize that girl, but I don't remember her name. Or I don't think I know her name, actually. But she does look familiar. Goldman Sachs, which previously estimated that there was a 35% chance of a recession with 2 years, is reiterating that a recession in the U.S. is not inevitable despite what stocks say. While our growth forecast has long been below consensus, we believe fears of declining economic activity this year will prove overblown unless new negative shocks materialize, Goldman Sachs chief economist Jan Hatzius wrote in a note to clients. Hatzius forecasts second quarter U.S. GDP growth of 2.8%, an improvement from 1.5% decline in the first quarter, followed by a GDP averaging 1.6% growth over the ensuing 4 quarters and no recession. Really? So second quarter seems like it's been really ugly, though, so I'd be really surprised that second quarter was that much better than the first quarter. Whatever. Despite the market narrative of declining business activity and sharper lower management confidence, Hatzius added, the activity measures of the surveys available for April and May indicate a deceleration rather than a collapse. Okay, we are starting to get some more significant volume as the treasuries move up here. The 10-year definitely moved up, but the micros aren't really coming along, which I find very curious. GS pumping to read. It doesn't work that way, Mr. Bond. Listen, doesn't work that. They don't talk to each other. Okay. Hatzius really knows his shit. The disconnect between what the analysts say and the actual performance of the market comes down much more to the fact that the analysts are focused primarily on the fundamentals and not on the flows. That's where that disconnect comes from. It's not because they're selling to their retail clients. They're like, no, although they're probing into it, supposedly. Supposedly the SEC is probing into it. But I'm going to be very, very shocked if Goldman Sachs is found guilty, or Matt Hazius, for instance, is found guilty of feeding their traders information and so on and so forth. I don't think he would do that. No, Megan Stray. Women's 59 kilo. He's lifting 85 kilos. That's not bad. For a 59 kilo weightlifter, that's actually really crazy good. Yeah. That was all on Yahoo Finance. I didn't see anything more from that. And there's a little bit more, but it was just kind of the nonsense. Like, we got to wrap things up. We can't just end things there, sort of a thing. I'm being fact. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I'm a little hypersensitive to it, aren't I, Mr. Bond? I do believe that smart money is exiting indexes and retail is going to back. Well, I don't know. Like, I feel like, Mr. Bond, that already happened, right? Like, we saw retail piling into indexes in 2021, and you actually saw some of the smart money selling. Very much the case. But lately it's been different, right? Lately it's been the all of the smart money has been selling into this, and the wait, did I just say the opposite? I felt like it was the opposite. No, I think I'm wrong. I think what we've been seeing is like this is kind of the opposite of what usually happens, because usually after a big dip it's the institutions that are absorbing the dip and retail is puking, but this time it's like retail is holding and or trying to add while the institutions are selling, which is a little different. But I don't know. It sounds like you're really convinced that we're in a bear market rally, though, right? That's probably the better way to put it, right? So you think that we're in a bear market rally, and that the bears are about to come back in a big way. Today's move in the S&P 500 is going to be this opening move here in the first like 30 minutes to an hour in ES, I think is going to be really interesting. Well, that's kind of weird. The micros actually moved down a little bit, even though the treasuries are not at their highs. So now there's a little bit of a disconnect between the price movement in the CN and the micros. Maybe it is because we're at the beginning of the contract, but I'm finding that a little disorienting. We need to wait for the retail to puke. Like, so here's the thing that's interesting about this, and the reason this is going to be relevant is because it does provide a room for this time to be different. So they always say that, be greedy when everybody else is fearful, and fearful when everybody else is greedy. And why is that? Well, everybody kind of interprets that as that the conventional wisdom is always wrong, and that when everybody's really scared about stocks, that, they really shouldn't be, and vice versa. But I actually think that they have a chicken and egg problem that they actually have backwards. Because again, it's orders that move markets. So if it's orders that move markets, then really the real reason why it sells is because people don't have money. Nobody has money to put into the index, and vice versa. So, when you get a market bottom, it's because they've sold, But retail has kind of wised up a little bit, right? And so they are much more determined to just hold, even if they took like a 70% loss. A lot of these retail guys are just holding, and at that point, what is going to force them to puke? There's I don't think that you can force them to puke. Um, they're unless they're like starving, right? That's like I think that's the level that these that like for me, I have my money, I have some money in there, right? I would have to be starving for you to convince me to pull it out, right? Because I put that money, that's investment, and I'm trying to invest it for the long term. So I'm not going to take it out based on you know even a recession, right? A recession is just I want to add more into it, right? If I have the ability to, right? So I don't think that you can just wait for watching what the retail traders do and do the opposite anymore. It's more complicated than that. I think that what we really have to do, they will hold until margin calls are happening. There you go, exactly. And I think, but on that side, Tobias, I think that most of the margin calls already happened, right? Like a lot of leverage came out of the system in the last 2 months, right? So really what we have to do is we have to predict the order flow, right? And um impacts to large aggregate groups of people are going to be something that is really useful, especially when we're trying to look on kind of a higher time frame, right? And at the moment, it doesn't seem to me that more people are going to be able to put aside money to put into the markets right now. I don't think I think most people are more concerned about how am I going to pay for gas than they are I've got some extra money I want to invest in the S&P 500, right? But I don't think that it's to the point like that they have to sell per se. So I what I foresee the action being is not necessarily like a huge tumble down further to like 50% or something like that. What I foresee instead is just a continued sideways action, possibly for the next 2 years. I still hold garlic. Yep, probably gonna take that to my grave. Like here's the thing. Here's the thing, Lean Umbrella. If I wanted to sell out of garlic right now, I probably wouldn't be able to, right? Like garlic is probably going to have to be listed on Coinbase or something. If they list on Coinbase, it'll transfer it all there, and I'll probably sell like on the day that it goes live and make whatever I make. And then probably like it goes higher, and everybody like, oh, you're so dumb stuff, you should have held it, right? That's probably how that one goes down. But it's the keys are written on a piece of paper, and maybe we come back to it a couple of years from now. But right now, like it's never picking up any interest. It seems like that the coins that take off every cycle are all new coins. So I'm starting to think that I'll probably have to hold that one to my grave. maybe like 100 years from now, there will be a great cryptocurrency revival, and Garlic Coin will pop off, and my children's children will make $1 billion out of it. But I don't think it's going to happen to me. You should read about what happened to German bonds during the 1920s. Most of the people just held them even at negative 60%, thinking they will hold till maturity, but loss of livelihood forced them. Yeah, exactly. But we're not there yet in the stock market, right? But like that's the thing, is that this market has been like in May. The May market was very apocalyptic, like it was really like this is so bad. And it was action that I had only previously seen like kind of during the pandemic in 2008. It was acting like the world is on fire when the data didn't really support that, right? So I remember, asking on TikTok, like, is there some sort of global financial crisis nobody told me about? Because I've never seen this kind of behavior otherwise. my running theory is that markets are overreacting because of options gamma. I think that whole May options gamma basically was set up in a way that was very, very bad for um, the markets, and just kind of created a feedback loop that kept going, and that we probably sold off more than was actually justified by the macro data. Um, right. Because when you get into that financial crisis is when you get into that situation where, you know, regular people are forced to sell. Like, that's what it really comes down to. And it's worse than that, right? Because most people only have their money in their 401ks, right? So we're talking about a situation where it's so dire for people that they feel like they have to take distributions out of their 401k and take the pain, right? That's the sort of thing that you got to worry about. I don't think we're anywhere close to that. That needs to reduce ratio of disposable income to household wealth. Well, I think there's this problem because isn't one of the kind of the generational problem been that people don't have very much disposable income anymore, and that when they're buying stuff, they're buying it on debt, right? Well, when we start to get into those economic issues, it gets really complicated, right? Because I think the reality is that was an aggressive push down, but I think the reality is that we've got something really messed up going on with housing right now, where housing builders just haven't had an incentive to get started up and build houses, and so we have very, very low supply, and everything else in the financial system is basically having to try and account for that, right? And so because of that imbalance, we get imbalances everywhere else. People spend more on their home as a portion of their income than they used to, and that's a real problem. And you know, I think that the amount of disposable income that people have should be higher. I mean, historically, it's really low, and that would be really good for markets if because it seems that the populace is much more educated on that, and so you're going to get a lot more people putting money into markets as well, which is going to mean generally overall higher investments, but it also means a lot of volatility too, right? Because a lot of those investment decisions that they can make are going to be dumb. So, but I think that the thing that the Federal Reserve needs to do right now is you got all of these companies are looking to there's like 2 job openings for each person out there. Although I kind of question, I think that a lot of these job openings are nonsense. Okay, so the S&P 500 is selling hard on the open, man. That was just like as soon as it opened, they hit it. Now the volume, the cumulative delta on this is not actually negative, which is very curious. But they sure took a nosedive there, didn't they? Lots of volatility is there's yeah. Let's say that having volatility down below 15 is not good, but you don't want it above like 50 all the time either, right? there's there's a there's a middle ground there where the volatility is kind of a good thing. Yes. Hmm. So the treasuries there started to push higher and did make a new high. And in fact, the 5 year went well above that key point, and it is coming back really hard. And it seems that that change started to happen with the S&P 500 opening up. So the S&P 500 sold, and hence so did treasuries, which is a little odd. It's not the same inverse relationship so far. But the volume in the ES is not following it either. So we got to keep an eye. So if you're trading ES, you I think that that's your first warning right there, right? Is that there's probably a lot of options and hedging activity going on right now, and that the volume in the S&P 500 may not be very indicative today of the trend. So the question is now, will the treasuries continue their drive up, or was that all there was to it? Because that was, at least in the 5 year, aggressive. I mean, I feel like I just blinked and they moved down, you know. You shorted at 41.38. That's not bad. Just right off the open, huh? Well, so we should give the other side of that too, right? This could bounce here, could, but the aggressive sell right on the open is a pretty big warning sign, right? Well, I'm debating with myself whether I should try and hold this for another leg or start working on something. I think part of that was that the liquidity was pretty light through this area. You got lucky. Yeah. It was I mean, any kind of trade right in that first 5 minutes is a bit of a gamble, isn't it, Jar Jar? Now, another thing I'm wondering though, so first of all, I could foresee the market moving all the way down to 4,000 and bouncing, right? So it's not probably not over for the bulls, but it sure doesn't look good at the moment. But if that is what happens, and say they go below 4,000 and it turns into a real downside bender, well, I don't know. That would already be down 40 points on the day. You would have to think that that would bring a strong bid into the treasuries, which as of yet, well, okay, so that was a good uptick right there, at least in the 10 year. So I don't know. Anthony Crudelli says first day back after holiday weekends are notorious for one-way markets in the mornings. Careful fading any moves without a lot of confirmation. Yeah, maybe he was listening to me, so I should make it clear I wasn't. Would not recommend fading this in the S&P 500. To be honest, I even if I was like actively trading ES, I would be a little terrified to take a trade right now. But good for you if you caught the short, right? Like if you caught the short, that's, hopefully that really runs for you. Man, there is and now that Canada is moving towards basically a gun ban, there is some really nasty infighting on Twitter about it. I do think I'm starting to think this could have political implications in the United States. I'm not so sure that it would be beneficial to Democrats. There's the 10 year pushing the higher end of the range now. 5 year hasn't come all the way back, but it's been fast. S&P 500 trying to pull out a bull candle there. They're trying. I do not. At least not. I I guess I shouldn't really say a whole lot about whether I do or do not own guns, but I don't have anything in the house right now. I'll put it that way. I wouldn't come and try assaulting my house though. I don't have any, but I can tell you the neighbors do. You're just gonna trailing stop it. I think that if I had played this short, I think that hopefully I had multiple contracts. I would probably take some off at 4,100 or maybe a bit above that, and then try and let the rest ride. But this really is a situation where this could just like really stumble. Seth has something bigger than the guns now. I wish. I mean, here's the thing: is that for me, um, you know that there's been like one gun death in my city like ever, and it was a suicide by cop. So like the need for me to have a gun for self defense is not really there, right? Um, but there's definitely reasons for politically speaking, right? And you're right. Like, so here's the thing, Bill. He's saying the Dems are going to use overturning Roe v. Wade, and the Republicans are going to use gun control to get the bases fired up. So first of all, the Roe v. Wade thing hasn't come out yet, so we don't 100% know how that's going to turn out. It could turn out to be not what they thought, right? Which would be interesting. Ouch. What's this? ECB is the cost. This would suggest that until these levels are reached, monetary policy will continue to be expansionary, at least from a long-term view. I think that I am going to take my licks here. Just lost $10. That sucks. With them reacting that much to a speech that I was not expecting, that's kind of like, okay, let's just that puts me break even on the day. It kind of sucks though, because I was thinking, well, maybe I could take the $20. Maybe I could take the 20 and be plus 10 on the day. But no. Nah, I don't think so. People who think they need guns because protection from the government are fighting a losing battle when a black helicopter shows up at their house. I don't think so. So let's see how it goes in Canada, right? Because I think that what you're going to see is, no, not that I think, but I think that a possibility that you could see is that people in Canada fight it much more hard than people in Australia did. And the government starts to have to use force. And as soon as the government has to start using force for that sort of a thing, public support for it will completely evaporate. See, you're thinking of it from the perspective of, okay, so if all you and your redneck yahoos get together with your guns and you try and fight a civil war against the government, you're going to lose, right? But that's not how it's going to work, guys. You got to remember, we're in a different age, right? We're in the information age, and what we see today is information wars. The war that you're seeing in Ukraine is really like a war from the last century, because Russia is that far behind, right? But the wars today are fought in the economic and information field. And if there was a like quote unquote civil war in the United States, it would not be as much outright open conflict as it would be a war for the hearts and minds of the people. And in a situation like that, Americans or Canadians or whatever, sticking to holding their rights and being willing to die for it really swings that battle in their favor, not the government's. The government would have to go full on authoritarian at that point, right? So I don't think that it would run that way. I think that it would be, but I don't think that they would ever try it here in the United States. It would be incredibly difficult. It'd be incredibly difficult to enact gun control in the United States. In Canada, it's different, right? For starters, I think that Canada has enough, like the ruling party in Canada has enough that this bill will probably pass. I could be wrong about that, but I haven't seen anybody say, there's no way they're going to get this through. It sounds like that if Trudeau wants it, and they are putting a bill, that it will go through, right? But the Canadian public is largely against gun rights, and a lot of that is because they largely don't own guns, right? So what you're going to see in Canada is more of a very small niche group, like 20% of the population, that is going to be very adamant about keeping their guns. And the law is not that no, I take that back, because for assault rifles, it is going to be like mandatory. You have to sell them back to the government. But I don't think that anybody will. And I don't think that the government is going to go out and try and compel anybody, because they know that as soon as they do that, that support for it will wane, right? So the tactic that you're going to do there is you're going to enact the bill. You're going to prevent future people from being able to buy them, and then you wait for the people that do have them to die out. That's how you do this sort of a thing, right? Unless the Canadians really fight hard against it here right at the beginning and protest and really create a lot of, they would have to get to the point of where the truck protests were, but maybe worse. I don't think gun control actually happens in the USA. Maybe legal age moves from 18 to 21 for rifle and some red flag laws, but that's about it. Yeah, I don't know. So there was a Republican representative that in the House, I think it was, that was saying, well, I would maybe, go for an assault rifle ban that would ban AR-15s or whatever. So I think it's a little bit more likely to happen than probably I portray. In 1914, the modern world is so economically connected that shooting wars are outdated. He was a Bank of England governor. No, it's not that. That's not what I was trying to say, actually, Deswald. I mean, that's another point that is commonly made. Sure, that is a thing. But what I'm saying is not that outright conflict of that nature is not a good idea because the world is so economically connected. I mean, look, the world is so economically connected, and Russia still went for it, right? Takes somebody a little bit crazy to make that happen, but it can happen. No, what I'm saying is that that kind of a war, especially in a U.S. civil war, would not be very effective, is what I'm saying. So I'm saying that the real war is really more informational now. So there's been a change in the way that modern warfare has worked, in that economic and information tools are in many cases more effective than outright physical force, right? So in that respect, the United States has been fighting a civil war now for 12 years. Right? So it's an information war. It's a meme war. And it is happening. And it's happening right under our noses, and we don't even see that it's actually to that extent. But when you think about it, if we're going to talk about war in the sense of an online war, what would an online war look like? How would it be any different from what we've seen? Other than just outright disrupting the internet, right? So because there's like taking down websites and all this sort of stuff. There's about as fierce as war can get in the online realm is what we've seen since Obama was elected. Well, I tell you what, I would be hitting out break even right here at 2.880. Was that really all just off of that one guy from the ECB talking? Jeez. That sucks because that came back on me so quickly. Probably maybe should have been more engaged, but I don't know. Even if I was really paying attention and quick and was anticipating it, I still probably would have only have made 15 off of that. So I probably should have gotten out at the 20 when I was thinking about it, though. That would have been luck that I had gotten out there, but overall, I guess today I didn't do too bad because I did get out on that first trade that was bad, and then I did catch a good trade on the second trade, and I did get a lot more favorable excursion than adverse excursion. So yes, that's why all the intelligence agencies are publishing the information about the war now. It's because information is more powerful and is the key in warfare. Yeah. I mean, information combined with economic warfare, right? Like here's an even more controversial way of putting it. We already had a war with China, right? We had a straight up economic war with China during the Trump administration. Like straight up. Right? So yeah, I think that if there was a civil war in the US, it would be fought much more on the informational front. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean for gun rights legislation? Well, I don't know. I don't think that the US is going to do anything about it. Just that the political landscape, I don't know if the advantage that Republicans have going into the midterms or the advantage that I assume that they will probably have going into the 2024 presidential election. I don't think that this necessarily changes that per se, but what it does do is it just changes the landscape, like what people are arguing about and stuff. Do you think COVID was part of that war? I don't know. You're asking me to endorse a conspiracy theory that I have no support, no supporting evidence for, but sure does seem, within the context of the conversation, sure does seem like an interesting thing to consider, doesn't it? But I don't think that we should go that far if we don't have actual information suggesting that it was. In fact, I would go as far as to say that I don't think that China really actually had the incentive to like release the virus on purpose, sort of a thing. Like if it did come from China, it wasn't on purpose. Okay. But gotcha. Yeah. I got this water bottle that came with like a rubber bottom, but then I also have my lovely Unreal Tournament coaster, and when I put them on top of each other, it kind of sticks to it, and then it drops and falls on the floor, and then you have to pick it up, and I fall for it every time. I fall for it every time. Okay, well, the Spoos made it to 4105. They are taking a little bit of a step back. It looks like we are likely. Okay, we got 30 seconds here. If they can close in the next 30 seconds above 4118, that would be a pretty solid signal in the long direction. Nah, it doesn't look like they're going to do it though. Well, I wonder. So here's the thing. That move up in the treasuries, it just kind of slowly floated there. And the bids sure pulled out of the way when we came down and everything. So what I'm kind of seeing right now is that I may not really have a strong enough meta of order to justify trying to take a third trade today. I mean, I think that if I was to take another trade, that it would probably be buying the treasuries again. But especially if the S&P 5, if that was the low of the day in the S&P 500, then it's definitely like Germany's Chancellor Scholz is speaking. I think another thing is that I feel, and the reason why I just dumped that trade as quickly as I did was because I felt like we were getting a lot of flow coming from Europe, and I know that I'm not as familiar with the politics and monetary policy of the Europeans right now, and it's even more uncertain than before because when I say before, I mean like a few weeks ago, because now you're in this weird world where maybe the United States has already seen peak inflation and Europe hasn't, right? So the effect that that has on our bonds and the flows and so forth is a little bit less certain for me. So that also kind of works against me wanting to take a trade, even though I think that my gut feeling is that they will go higher. We're almost back to the highs in crude oil. I don't know. Like the issue that I see in the oil trade, it seems to me like if you want to make money off of the oil trade, just buy oil, right? To try and trade the interest rates off of oil is a little bit more difficult of a trade because we're to the point where you really start to see demand destruction, right? Could mean euro buys 10-year, could be. Seeing a little bit of pressure on Bitcoin here now. But the thing that's moving the most right now is the euro. Ooh, the euro is going. They're buying it. Oh, you know what? I totally forgot about the Chicago PMI too. What was that? I don't even remember hearing that on my news squawk. It was 60 spot 3 versus 55 spot 1. It was good. Oh, that's why the S&P 500 reversed there. For sure. Okay, but we got pushed out of our position way before that. Why did I not hear that? I'm off this week already, these guys. CB consumer confidence though, yeah, in a minute 12. ECB slowly starts to shift towards tightening, so I guess in European markets we have not seen the low. The way this has gone today in the treasuries it's been an unusual and difficult day, really, hasn't it? Given what I had to work with and the trades that I took was, for me to have come out break even is actually really good. And I really should have made the $10, but I actually played it really well. So I should feel on that. I feel like I'm off on some things, but I'm really on other things. So I think that might be because we're at the beginning of the contract. And so the order flow tends to be a little bit more indicative of the price at the beginning of a futures contract, so that might be helping a little bit. Okay, so CB consumer confidence is higher than expected at 106.4 versus an expected reading of 103.8. So that is probably bad for the treasury, but good for equities. We'll see. And so now I'm starting to look at this and ask, well, can I justify trying to buy yield here on the hopes that it goes back to 2.9? I don't think I can. I think I'm really so what we just saw today was we had some degree of large meta order in both directions, both down and up. And both of those trades got disrupted by something. So that makes it really hard for me to sort out which way this is going to go eventually, right? The ECB shifting towards being hawkish here sure does feel like that will put pressure on bonds though, right? Yeah, maybe I'm making it too complicated. I think that though I've got to lean in that direction. Now, the S&P 500 is not helping right now because the S&P 500 is kind of turning down, which kind of injects some deflationary pressure into it, but maybe the S&P 500 is selling because of that hawkishness. But will they actually hit 4,000? You could maybe get a little acceleration if they cross 4,000, although I highly doubt that the options are strong enough yet to really create a super strong move off of that, but that's probably going to be the level people are watching. Hmm. I don't know why, but I was just thinking back to when we were talking about garlic coin earlier. I was like, why did he ask me that? That was so out of the blue. I don't really think there's anything too interesting going on with the cryptocurrencies yet. It seems like they're under a little bit of pressure. But let me come over to my crypto watch list and see if there's any of these. Bitcoin and Ethereum are up. And, well, pretty much everything is up. Garlic coin is sitting right at about 3 cents, which is around where it's been for quite some time, actually. Well, no, I take that back. It has kind of been on a downtrend, hasn't it? I don't know if we're gonna have another crypto bull market come through here, like that was the bottom of the crypto market, because I am kind of getting some signs that could be what's happening. Um, maybe Garlic Coin does really well in the next cycle. I don't know. It sure would look good if it made a higher high, for instance. Hmm. So they're kind of hinting at me now that they want to test those lows again in the treasuries, and I'm looking at 2.89, and the book doesn't look right to me. So a lot have already hit into 2.89, right? So I guess I already missed my chance to try and hit into it. I could put a limit order there, but you say ZN sure testing the highs? I don't know. What I see right now is that EU news is just kind of taking over and dominating. I don't know if it's really enough to push them to new lows or not, but we'll see. I think this one right here, I think I could make a small scalp here because of that 08 was such a huge node earlier, right? It should make it a little bit easier for me to get a fill there. That price probably still has some influence. Oh, I'm not going to touch it yet. Well, I got one tick out of it. The cost is still speaking, by the way. Let's see a little bit of, yeah, that's not good. The cost saying the first rate increase could happen in July. Well, I tried taking a sim trade here in the 10-year, and I'm already unhappy with how it's going. If you tested the correlation between the dollar and ZN, should be quite high, actually, right? Well, so I have looked at it. There is some correlation, but it very much is one that will like connect and disconnect. So it's not a very reliable correlate. It's not like the 6J. Like the 6J, it's like, man, if the 6J is moving down and the treasuries aren't, like something's going on, right? It's not quite like that, but there is a pretty strong correlation. But I mean, it's like oil. Like you don't typically think of oil as a strong correlation for treasuries, but then there are some points where it does end up being really influential. So you kind of have to know why it's doing what it's doing, I guess. Oh, I missed that. I was going to try and stop limit into 09, but already went. Already went. There's one. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those, something that I find really difficult is that there are definitely instruments that are correlated, and I can come in here and I can say, well, we had this move, and given the context, I would have expected this to, yep, sure enough, it did move, right? That sort of a thing. But like then if I want to try and prove it to you guys and show you mathematically that that's the case, it's a lot more complicated than that, right? Like, I don't know if there's actually math to kind of show you the correlation in the way that I'm talking about it, right? Because I can show you there are periods where they'll both trend in a certain direction, and they very, very much follow each other. They both start at the same time and they both end at the same time. But how do you express that mathematically? Because it could be the case that they're highly correlated on those trends, but then the rest of the time they're not correlated at all. And statistically, that could come out as like not correlated. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's super easy to measure, but trading because of correlation is super difficult. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that with the correlation, so here's the thing: is that trading with correlation or primarily on correlation is actually a very, very profitable strategy, right? It's just you've got to be at the front of the queue. I mean, this is how the robots are doing it a lot. And especially if you're adding like some sort of spreading on top of that, you know? Like that's some good reliable stuff. But if you don't have it, if you're trying to kind of you're speculating essentially, which is what we do, then you don't want to trade just off of the correlation, but rather what you want to do is you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're outright trading against it, right? So like the 6J is moving down, the trend is down. I probably don't want to try and take a reversal here again. And then what is the spreads doing? Well, the spreads are flattening. So I would probably rather take it in the 10 or the 5 rather than the 30 right now. Right? And that's just like all of the correlations and the trends with those correlated instruments. Right? I'm just trying to position a trade that's not counter to what the current correlations are. It's not like I take the trade because that's the signal. It's just that's something that I know has power, so I'm not going to trade against it. And that happens a lot. That's base. It's not edge, it's base. It's like there are things that matter in the market, and you're not going to gain an advantage by trading that as a pure signal, but you're not going to do very well if you trade against it. All right. There's a lot of that. And that's a part of why I think makes trading so hard is figuring all of those things out. Well, I don't know. If I had taken the 2.89 that we were talking about, where I kind of hadn't liked the offer that they were giving me, I would be up a few ticks, but it would be going awfully slow here still. So I'm kind of feeling that we're going to get a more extended distribution here at 08 before it decides to do something. Yeah, like a filter, you can use it. Yeah, well, yeah, like a filter is a good example. Like I could go in and I could put a filter on a strategy, and I could see that like if I trade the filter, so like for instance, whether the slope of the trend line is up or down, rather than whether the close is above or below it, but rather just whether it's pointing up or down, right? If that was my signal and I was doing that on a super smoother, then you get break even if you trade off of that. But if you trade against that, you lose a lot, right? So it's like, it's not enough to overcome the spread and make you money, but you don't want to trade against it. You don't want to trade against it. And when it's something like that, usually doesn't make a very good entry signal, but it makes a good filter. So I like that you use the word filter, right? Like for me, especially here in the micros, if I'm gonna hit with a market order, I want to catch the edge. Like I'm mad if I hit into it and it didn't clear that price. I want it to clear that price. If I get filled on limit, I don't want it to go through me, right? I want it to iceberg in the treasury, right? So that's like a pure edge, that's like an entry edge, right? But I only make that entry when I know that the fundamentals are kind of in my favor too. Or not, let's not say the fundamentals, but the predictors of order flow are in my favor too, right? And then I'm still going to look at all the trends and the trends of all the correlated assets to make sure that those are kind of in line too. You referring to the 6-day? Well, I was just talking about correlations in general. Like in ZN, I'll tell you the one thing you got to watch in ZN, man. If you're already watching like the 6J and the dollar and everything, right? Is you really want one of my spread indicators up there. You want to know which direction the trend is going, because what you will get so often is like for instance right now, 5-year is selling, 30-year is buying. That's what's generally going up. So you're going to come here and you see 139.00, 151 traded at 139, 41 almost immediately traded at 139.01. Hey, that is the order flow reversing. I want to buy that. Well, do you really actually want to buy that? You're going to see more buying over here in the ZB purely because of the spread. So you could very much misread what that order flow is doing because you're only looking at the one, right? But once I know that what the spread is, now I can come in and I can say, okay, say I want to sell right now. Say I think that it's going to go down to a new low. Actually, I do kind of think that it's going to go to a new low. So if I was really wanted to take that trade and I had maximum flexibility to do it, I would probably be putting a limit order out here in the ZB. Because of the way that the spread is going, I'm really likely to be able to get a fill in the ZB even if the trend is still down, right? And that's why you got to watch those sorts of things. Conversely, if I was trading the 5-year and I wanted to take the same short, you probably don't want to put it on the offer. It might you're less likely to get filled. And if you do get filled, it's because you're getting what you're getting right now, which is the mean reversion is coming through, right? And it goes well through you. You're spot on, man. Thank you. If only, I don't know. I wish I was up $10 today. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself and my fill and my read and everything, but I didn't get paid for it today, did I? Last one and made one, and on the one that I made, I could have gotten way better, but it came back so fast that I was just not even paying attention, and $10 very easily. Oh, that's weird. Barron's has driven about 15 electric vehicles in the past year or so, and the Hummer might be their favorite. What? What? Is there really an electric Hummer? Oh my gosh. I would say it's a tough day. So it is. It is. I was really proud of how we handled the first bit. I wish that I had been here on the open and maybe participated in that sell-off at first, but you know what? Like my tendency is to want to let it ride. And today has been a situation where when the liquidity hole forms, you want to get out. It did done it there. Actually, you know what's interesting? It should be called a bummer. Yeah, but you know what I thought was interesting about the order flow up is it was kind of more of a grind higher, and it just kind of floated up. And we never really got to the point where there was like really excessive volume coming into it and traded, like we do at the bottom here, right? It was very different at the top. At the top, it was like they were probably going to continue going through if the freaking guy from the ECB hadn't opened his mouth, right? Then I think that we might have been up to 22, right? Shanghai promised to reopen. Let's see, they have promised a lot of things lately. I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on there. S&P 500 looks like they're gonna try and push the eyes now, though. That's looking really promising. Wait, what the fetch? What am I reading here? From the Financial Times. Robot dogs roam the streets and apartment corridors, barking orders for people to wash their hands and check their temperature. Drones are also flown in to further admonish residents for transgressions. And here's this little dog thing, one of those robo dogs, walking down the road with a megaphone on its back. Wait, is it saying anything? Oh, it's saying stuff in Chinese. Is that what is actually happening in China right now? What the heck? Oh my gosh. This is so the future is so much weirder than I thought it was going to be, you know? Like, you remember when you were a kid and The Fifth Element came out and it was like, man, their vision of the future is kind of weird. It was nothing. It was nothing compared to what we got today, man. It's like, what the heck? It's been there for a while now, the dogs. Oh, that is so bizarre, man. Hey, look, there's 2.89 again. Gallup out with a new survey this morning. America's already low economic confidence drops. Oh, you know what? So I've been ADHD when we were talking about the economic stuff, right? Or sorry, the political stuff. Something that I think might happen here that I forgot to say is, like, Democrats are all energized for the election because of abortion, and Republicans are all energized because of gun rights, right? But unless there is like a really significant recovery between now and then in the S&P 500, and I really think that it's going to continue to be a little bit more back and forth and sideways, then the economy is probably going to be the thing that determines it in the end. And the real issue in politics right now, the thing that seems that I think ends up dominating everything else, is that the Democrat Party has really embraced leftist economics and basically jumped the shark. Like, yeah, they're playing this cultural issues playbook, and the problem is that people don't care about the cultural issues when they can't drive to work, right? Or when it costs $500 a month to drive to work or whatever it is. So that's why the changing political landscape, even though it doesn't necessarily change where the lines are or how likely Republicans are to take the House and everything, it really, really matters in this situation, I think, because the world is kind of changing around us again. Like, we had a really big change in our world when Russia attacked Ukraine, right? And this is that kind of a change. Obviously not nearly as significant, but it's that kind of a change. It's going to have an effect on kind of the whole landscape, including the economics. I hear a lot of people praise Trump for his stock market performance. I miss his tweets about the market. Dude, well, you know that you can get on Truth Social now through the web browser, and that he's tweeting every day, right? He is. I haven't checked that in a while. You want to check it? You go to Truth Social and see what they're saying. I wasn't getting that much interest over there, so I was like, yeah, they're really rapping on this Pelosi's husband involved in 2-vehicle car crash. Dude, it was like a brand new Porsche that he crashed. Oof. Problem with following the science is the science usually follows the money. That is a problem. Nothing too interesting. Where's Drunk Paul? What? Yeah, see, like I can see tweets from an hour ago, but that's nothing. I don't see anything from the Donald yet. Not yet. Not yet. But I saw a TikTok about that yesterday, where the person was praising Donald Trump's stock market performance, and I was like, yeah, but technically we're still higher than we were when Biden took office. Can you believe that? That in the last 1.5 years, the stock market is higher than where it started when Joe Biden first took office. And it's definitely higher than when Joe Biden was first elected. So it kind of puts it in perspective, right? Like this sell-off that we've been having, it's an ugly sell-off. It seems like there's some sort of economic crisis going on, but I think that the reality is that the reason we fell so hard is because all of the retail nimrods out there bought the heck out of the S&P 500 at exactly the time that all the experts were telling him it was a bad idea and we were overvalued. Yeah. Orders are what moves price, okay? But their effect is very temporary, right? And in the long run, over the course of years, fundamentals very, very often will, things will come back to those. And so when a stock is like really massively overvalued, I think that you need to have a model that, you think that the way they're modeling, the way that the analysts are modeling it is wrong, and that you can prove that it's worth what it is in order to take a trade like that, right? Because otherwise, you just get what happened to everybody here in this last market run. And it's hard because, I mean, a lot of these companies, like the company the tech that I bought, I thought, it was fine because, but, because their future growth is really promising. But because they don't have like revenues, right? It meant that then really was not a good time to buy, right? Even I kind of got caught by it, even though I was way more cautious and didn't spend all my money. In fact, I still have a significant cash position. I'm kind of saving it. I guess I do need to put some more into oil, but I kind of want to put it into like nuclear energy. I really want to put it in nuclear energy, and it's just kind of really hard to find a good play for nuclear energy, right? So probably not that. I would need to be in private equity. That's what I need to do. Maybe once I get my Series 65, maybe they'll let me invest in that. Maybe I can talk to them and I can be like, yeah, but I am a qualified investor. So I don't know. Well, I tell you what, trying to go long 2.89 and up to 2.9, I don't think that trade would have worked, right? Kind of looks like it's reversing again. Do you think that the Treasury can make it back to, let's say, the middle of this node 15 again? Top Gun Maverick took off at the box offices. Did you guys watch Top Gun? I didn't watch it. I had it all on my phone and everything, and then like I totally forgot to get tickets and everything, so I didn't watch it. Maybe I could watch it tonight. Maybe I can convince my mom to come and watch the baby, and we can take the boy. The girls can choose if they want to come see it or not. Not yet. Dude, this morning I saw a TikTok. I think that they were copying some other video though that was, I think it originated not on TikTok. And he was making the argument that Top Gun was actually about a man questioning his sexuality. And they pointed out, I never really thought about this, but there was the first time that he went over to her house, and they don't do it. They don't do it the first time that he goes over to his house. And then the next time that he sees her, she's all dressed butch. And there's like she's trying to convince him to not be gay, and Iceman is the gay guy. And I was like, I mean, that kind of works. I don't know if that was like intended or anything, but it kind of works as that's what the movie's about. Oh man, the stuff that people come up with, right? No, the one that I bought was Sumo Logic. So here was the thinking, right? First of all, I didn't have any way to sit down and like value it, because I just know that like the growth wise, if it grows into the company that I think it can be, it's going to be it's going to be a lot larger company, right? And it is something that I know about, right? Because I think that they are really well positioned in so kind of the next frontier in technology. The place, so like when I first came into the industry, for instance, people were still kind of working on how do they do the pipeline, right? This was a time when a lot of software developers were kind of using waterfall approaches and were starting to get lured into this Scrum Master sort of a thing, right? And Jira had just come out like literally that year. Like this was 2010. I think it was 2010 that Jira came out, right? And, everybody moved their pipelines to using tickets and that sort of thing. And that was a big change, right? Before that, they had difficulty getting their pipelines all standardized and stuff because there wasn't like a perfect solution that did everything until Jira. And once Jira became the de facto standard, then everything kind of integrated with that, and then it was easy. Okay. So you're in a similar spot with the technology world and cloud technology. Almost everybody is deciding to move their infrastructure from hosting it on premise to hosting it in the cloud. Almost all of these big companies are doing this now. And when you move into the on cloud, you want to have something so that you can set up and tear down those virtual machines at will. And you have to be able to monitor what's going on in those systems. And there's a lot of other components to all of this. But the point is there's a tool in every one of those areas that's pretty darn good. But it's not completely there. Okay, so Sumo Logic, they do logging. They do logging really, really well. But you can kind of monitor things from the logs, right? But it's not all the way there because you still want something that like tracks the CPU, right? So you need monitoring software. So I was using Sensu, and Sensu was pretty good. It kind of needed some work, and we didn't really like the way that their licensing was working with Sensu, but it was pretty good. And guess what? Sumo Logic bought Sensu, right? So especially, I think that Sumo Logic becomes a very attractive, especially at the prices that they're at now, like below $10, man, good. It becomes a very attractive acquisition target. And if I were to guess who would do it, I would bet it would be Microsoft. I think that Microsoft would be that Sumo Logic would be really attractive to Microsoft because some of their tools in Azure for that sort of stuff are just not up to par yet, right? You use Kibana. I haven't used that one. Isn't that let me see here. Lets you visualize your Elasticsearch data. Oh. I've used Elasticsearch before. That one's an interesting one. Anyways, yeah. So that's why I got into it, right? But it was just, the price that it took was just terrible, right? Like in the end, it didn't matter because the interest rates coming in. I guess I didn't perceive at that time. I thought, well, everybody's buying stuff overvalued and everything. You got to be really careful. But I thought that just meant, you got to be really careful about what you buy. When in reality, it was really like, just don't buy any tech, man. Just don't buy any tech because they're all going to get slaughtered. Are they worth holding now at this point? I don't know. I guess it depends on where the interest rates go. Now, the ones that you mentioned, Tobias, there's a couple of those that I would have been wary about. So I've been wary about PayPal from the beginning. Not from the beginning, but through a lot of that rise, it was kind of like, I don't know if you actually want to own PayPal, right? Because they lost their deal with eBay, and like they're just PayPal is basically got competition on all four sides of them, right? So I think that's your problem over there in PayPal. Activision, well, you're gonna own Microsoft stock now, right? Because Activision is getting bought out. But before that, yeah, I absolutely wouldn't have bought Activision because they did benefit and were one of the best plays during like post-pandemic in 2020. But then after that, it was absolutely dismal because two reasons. Number one is that the pandemic just hurt like all software development. We haven't seen nearly as many big name games that really changed the gaming landscape in the last 2 years, right? Like Apex Legends came out at the beginning of the pandemic and it's still the premier shooter, for instance, right? And then number two is that everything that made Activision good had been gutted by Bobby Kotick, right? It's the most the most highly compensated CEO in the market, and yeah, I've been anti-Activision for a long time. I was really hoping for a shareholder revolt, and hey, who knows? Maybe if Microsoft hadn't stepped in, maybe that would be happening right now still. But Microsoft stepped in, so good for them. Microsoft has been doing pretty good at that stuff. It's kind of weird to me because I remember in the 90s, we all hated Microsoft back in the antitrust days. But, it seems to me that the newer people that they've hired in Microsoft are like aware of these things and they've done a good job. I'm actually really I'm much happier with where Microsoft is right now than I am with where, say, Apple is right now or Amazon is right now, Like Amazon is doing nasty stuff. I've never liked Apple. I do not like Apple stuff. Yeah. But the one that I really want still is I really want a nuclear power one. Now that one's hard because first of all, there's not really any stocks that are next gen nuclear power. You might be able to get it through like there's a company that owns part of a company, but really you got to go private equity for that. But maybe if we have the Series 65, maybe we can get in on that. I don't know. All this Blizzard games were so good, but I am not up to date. No, like the last 2 or 3 releases that they've had have just been absolutely dismal. So I thought, okay, maybe they will save Overwatch because, they were making an Overwatch 2, And so you weren't getting any updates to Overwatch, and it was really killing Overwatch. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, oh, hey, actually, we're going to be having a beta for Overwatch 2 next month. And everybody's like, oh, yay, we're saved, right? And everything that I saw coming out of the Overwatch community during the beta says to me that it's not going to save them. It's the same thing that always seems to happen with every game that I love when the sequel comes out, is that the sequel is not even half as good. Oh, that's my dad. Hold on a second. He was just calling me because it's my birthday. I didn't even mention it because I don't even. I've the older I've gotten, the more I've gotten into, like, I just don't like to make a deal out of everything. Like when we had the baby last time, was a huge deal for me, right? So I want everybody to know that I said, this time around, you know, we didn't really tell anybody, just our family. Well, we're having a baby out Friday too, right? Happy birthday! Thank you, live action. Anyways, we were talking about Blizzard products. Anyways, Overwatch 2 kind of looks like it might be a dud. I could be wrong. They might save it, but right now it doesn't look so good. Right now it doesn't look so good. Thank you. Thank you. I got myself a table, but I don't think that we'll be able to do anything with it. We were just talking about the table. So here's what the deal is with the table, is that, like, apparently it's actually 2 feet wide, or it's actually 3 feet wide, I think. So I got this piece and it's like this, and it's not straight, right? So from here, that's actually 32 inches, right? My current table is only 24 inches. So at first I thought, oh, okay, I'll just cut this off and then that will be my table, right? But then I really want to have it so that I can have like my DJ stuff in front of me and everything. And then they were all telling me I'm too close. So I got my measuring tape here, right? I'm like, okay, how close am I actually? Because you're supposed to be 20 inches. So if we do 20 inches from my nose here. Well, okay, right now where I'm sitting, I am actually 20 inches away. Just barely. It just barely touches. But I'm actually sometimes probably trending on too close. And probably I should be more like this. So I thought maybe what we should do is we should make a tray. And then if I have a tray, I can have my keyboard and mouse on that tray, and I can have my DJ stuff on top of the desk. Or if we're trading, I can move those out of the way and I can have books on top of my desk, right? And I can make notes and things. Like if I have actual desk space in front of me besides my keyboard and mouse, then that would be great, right? Well, there's another issue, which is that, like, I have my monitors like this. There's one monitor, and then this monitor is actually lower than the others so that the camera can go over top of it, right? And the bottom of this monitor is 31 inches off of the ground. So I was like, okay, now where we should put the keyboard tray is about 25, 26 inches off the ground. Let's say 26. Octavia says, happy birthday. Thank you. 26 inches. Now, if I want to have a keyboard tray that like I can put my hand completely under, then I need 4 inches. So 4 inches here. And then that gives me an inch here on the top, except for that the table is like 2 inches thick. So I'll have to like dig out a hole for it. I think I'll have to like dig out a hole for it, but I might be able to work and then it will be 31 inches. And hey, who knows? Maybe I can do it like this. Like maybe I can have, here's the monitor and here's the other monitor and the camera is just peeking out between the two of them. I think I might move to that. So is GTA 6 still? It is. It's still very popular apparently. Yeah, I think maybe part of the reason why I feel like there haven't been very many new games lately is because shooters are not as popular as they used to be. Like what is starting to happen is they're realizing that only the guys are really super into the shooters. And so the shooters, there's a certain ones like Call of Duty have basically consolidated the market. And the rest of the market is trying to go for a larger thing. Yeah, my ladder's just reset. My CQG connection hopped. Let's see if I come over here into the log. I can see a bunch of reset requests, request of data. Oh my gosh, there's so much data that gets requested when that happens too. See, it's just like nothing, it doesn't say anything like that it died. It's just all of a sudden, all of the data resets. Did you say you're supposed to be 20 inches away from a screen? Yeah, I did a quick search for that. You want to search for that again? How far away from my monitor should I sit? So the way that I've always heard it is that if you put your hand out, your palm should touch the screen. And that's roughly the correct length away. A ergonomic equation, the position the monitor at least 20 inches from your eyes. So I'm kind of I'm a little bit too close. I'm a little bit too close, right? Here's what does arm's length. There you go. Arm's length away. So, yeah. And that's about what I am. But if I make my little tray underneath 4 inches high, this is so dumb. Like this is how much I've been thinking about it, man. I'm really into it, man. I went and I made a piece of cardboard and I folded it so that it would be 4 inches, right? And then I put my hand underneath of it, and that's enough for me to move my hand around. So I put it down here and put it over my mouse. And then I'm moving my mouse around, and can I actually maneuver my mouse? And when I pick it up, it actually my hand will actually just barely brush against the top. It's probably a little bit shorter than 4 inches, but so 4 inches should be fine. But I think that if I do all of the things, if I have 4 inches for the tray, and the tray can pull out, and the monitors come, or the table comes out 3 feet on the sides, And I have the monitors set up on different heads so that I can position them better. Like move them out further instead of having this triple monitor stand. I have 3 separate monitor stands mounted at different points. Then I should be able to, I should be able to have like maximum flexibility and get what I want. And then I'll have this whole tabletop that I can do stuff with, and I can have, like my DJ thing right at the top. I don't know. Maybe now is the point at which there's enough free, like royalty free music out there that I could just DJ while we're doing the stream or play music. It seems like music does help, even though you, I don't know, you guys would prefer not to have the music, it seems, but every time we've done that, at least that's what people have kind of leaned. Happy birthday. Thank you very much. We got what, 10 minutes left here? Well, the treasury did move a little bit, but not too much. So I made the right choice trying to not take another trade, didn't I? It wasn't too bad today. Oh, is June Gay Pride Month? I saw Elon Musk is tweeting about Gay Pride Month, apparently. I'm surprised that he would say that. I don't know. Oh man, I hate it when I'll read something on Twitter, and then that just brings on a flood of other thoughts, and my ADHD mind just completely runs with it, because now I'm thinking through all of that stuff. Like, even though I don't think it's really too relevant to trading, but it is relevant to culture and to people and how people think. Like, I find this whole debate about groomers to be really interesting. Because how do you draw the line between somebody was influenced to be that way and they really were naturally that way, right? Because the LGBT community, they don't feel like that they are influencing kids to be gay, right? That's not what they think. They think that they're just trying to provide an environment where the kids that are gay will feel comfortable being out about it, right? But we can't really prove that it's like an innate thing. So, and I think there is kind of this thing where it's like there, supposedly some of your fetishes kind of can be formed during like your first sexual experiences, and so like, yeah, that sort of a thing, pushing that sort of thing on kids, it could maybe make them gay. I don't know. But like, you can't prove any of that stuff. You can't prove it either way. And so you got this argument with both sides each taking a position on the nature versus nurture argument, and taking different positions on how children should be, how these subjects should be presented to children, and I mean teenagers too, based on their position on the nature versus nurture argument. And it's a really weird thing. And it's the thing that I find weird about it is that I don't think you really got a whole lot of room to make serious logical arguments either way in most cases. Even though I do kind of have my own opinion about it. Anyways, so Gay Pride Month, I think that maybe those issues will be talked about a lot more. And normally it's something that I can ignore, but now Elon Musk has tweeted a picture of June is almost here, and this person yelling, and all of the rainbow user profiles coming through. So now like, you think the woke stuff is getting ridiculous? This is a much more this is like one of those things that's like, hey, maybe Elon Musk has always thought this and he's just been afraid to say anything about it, right? This is gonna stir up controversy probably. Like now the left is gonna be outright out for his head, right? Yeah, they're gonna be outright going for his head now. And so now this whole thing is gonna become a huge political issue that everybody's gonna be talking about, instead of a kind of a quiet thing in the background. Did I say Elon instead of Elon? Elon Musk? Because I'm from Utah, I guess. Elon Musk. Elon Musk. I don't know. Because in the US and especially in Utah, we always kind of take those hard enunciations off. Like we don't say mountain, we say mountain. Right? It's not Elon, it's Elon. Right? Because everything we want to schwa everything. All of the vowels, right? So with enunciation, right? Mostly we think of like T's and D's and C's and K's and stuff becoming more like kind of softer. But with vowels, what happens is they all kind of trend toward the schwa sound, which is like the in butter, right? So instead of Elon, it's along, right? Elon. And I mean, there's still an E to it, but it's like a lazy E. You mean he will be more hated than Ricky Gervais? So can somebody explain that to me? Because I watched his special. When I saw everybody getting uppity about it, I watched his special and I didn't get it. Like, I didn't see why he was so hated. Because he made jokes about that sort of stuff, but it was like you could very clearly tell. Yeah, I watched it on Netflix, his most recent one. And you could very much tell through what he said that he was a very liberal and very much LGBT advocate. But he would still joke about it. And it didn't make sense to me that he was, because apparently he's more hated among transgender people than what's his bucket? Which I was like, what? I have to say, so he made this joke. It's the sort of content that I'm not going to get into on my stream, but there was this one joke about God, like that people think that God creates certain things to punish people. And he's like, here's what you'd have to be thinking in order for that to be true. And the punchline for it was so effing hilarious. I thought that was one of the funniest punchlines I had ever heard, because there was this whole incredibly offensive thing about God, all for a pretty lowbrow punchline, but it was really funny. Well, they feel like it was a targeted attack. No, I don't think so. I think that here's what I think happened. I think that they heard the one thing that he said about it at the beginning, where he said, well, yeah, but nobody ever thought that we were going to have to think about that sort of stuff. And they made that out as, oh, he's coming after us. And they didn't watch the rest of the special. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It was weird. But I didn't feel like here's let me put it this way. I think that Christians would be more likely to be offended by his special than transgender activists, okay? Like, it was, and I mean, the whole thing was just offensive humor, but man, he has a weird style, that's for sure. Because a lot of his jokes are just, he's talking about something super, super offensive, right? And so it's kind of funny just because of how offensive it is. And then it's just, it's all, that whole offensive line is just for a one-liner joke. You know, he just spent 10 minutes building up to this one-liner joke. There's a lot of that. They come back down. Oh, now that's interesting. Somebody just hit them into the market with about 5 lots. I wonder if that was a short puking. But we're coming up to the 2.9. Maybe they will eventually break it. Well, guys, thank you for all the birthday wishes. We did. I mean, we didn't lose anybody, so we're okay. So I guess I'm okay with it. But yeah, interesting market today. Lots of interesting things to talk about, and it sounds like the world is maybe about to get a little more interesting again. So we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how the week progresses. In the meantime, stay profitable, friends, or at least don't lose it all.